Hi everybody, so Malibu is wearing her boho beach dress that I made for her, and she also has this really cute tote bag that I'm getting ready to show you how to make. In fact, I think she might even have some shells in it. Yes, she does. Alright, so this is a super easy project. If you've never sewn before, this is a wonderful beginner's project. It has a little box bottom to it that I'm going to show you how to do it, which is super simple. You can hand stitch this if you want, or you can machine stitch it, whatever you want to do. The handles are made out of hemp. I have actually this multicolored hemp, but any type of hemp, if you want like the natural colored, that works. And you don't even have to use hemp if you have ribbon, if you have cording around. This is a wonderful scrap project. As you can see, you don't need a ton of fabric for it. And in fact, I'll show you the back of this because I had to kind of squeeze in this, and it still had the little line at the top. But if I just flip it around this way, you can't even tell. And I don't have any more of this fabric, so this was kind of cool that I was able to use up this last little bit and make a really cute tote bag for her now that she's getting ready to head out to the beach. Alright, so hang out with me a little bit and I will show you how to make this super fun little sewing project for your Boho Blythe doll. Alright, let's get started on making this super cute tote bag. So the bottom part, this is just cotton. I used scraps that I had in my sewing scrap bin, so you don't need a lot of fabric. Just see what you've got. You could also use scraps of felt if you want, or anything like that. The handles are hemp, and they're kind of a thicker hemp. I would say that's probably about 1 millimeter thick. But you could use thinner hemp. It doesn't matter, whatever you've got. This is some hemp that I actually picked up, I believe, at Walmart years ago. I really like it because it's so colorful. Here's some natural hemp. This actually might look good with these patterns, this fabric here. So I did not include a pattern for this because basically it's a rectangle, folks. Okay. Now it is a 2.5 inches or 63.5 millimeters by 3 inches, 76.2 millimeters. And I found that this size bag works really well for the 1/6 scale dolls. Keep in mind, this is a tote bag. It's not really meant as a purse. So, you know, this would be something that your doll would actually put stuff in, like you know, Malibu has some shells she's put in here. She could put in, you know, suntan lotion, you know, bottle of water, etc. So I think this is a good size as far as the scale for the Blythe dolls. So I recommend cutting out a piece of paper that is this size, because then when you go to your scrap bin, you can go around and see, you know, do I have scraps that are going to fit? It's just a little bit easier than taking it out and constantly measuring everything. And then you're going to want to cut 2 pieces out of your scrap. And so, for example, this might be nice to have one side on the beach here and center that, okay? And then the other side could be the surfboards. All right. If I find a larger piece, like this is actually big enough where I could fold it in half and not have to put a seam here. However, and cut on the fold. However, you can see the orientation of this pattern on the fabric has a top and a bottom. So if I were to do that and not cut 2 pieces, then when I turned over, it would be upside down on the other side. Okay. So that's just something to keep in mind. So yeah, you want to have some cotton fabric, you want to have some hemp. You're actually going to need 2 pieces of hemp that are 7 inches long. And like I said, the fabric, you're going to need 2 pieces of cotton fabric that are 3 inches by 2.5 inches. And then as far as sewing goes, sewing supplies, all the regular stuff, needles, pins, scissors, thread, you know, whatever you're going to normally use. Also, you can either use your sewing machine, or if you want, you could use just hand stitch it, and that would be fine. I used my sewing machine and I hand stitched the handles onto it. So yeah, so I'm going to heat up my iron, and I'm going to iron out these little pieces here so they're not all wrinkly, and cut out 2 squares to make a tote bag. I'll be right back. All right, I have cut out my 2 rectangles. And the next step, you can do this if you want to, but you don't have to. I am using some freight check, and I have it on some tin foil. I have to wait for it to dry now, but I put spray check all around the edges. Not a big deal if you don't want to do this, especially for a tote bag. For this one, actually, did I do it? I didn't do it on this one, so it's not a huge deal. Just something I typically do. Okay, so if you want to finish it another way, you could zigzag the edges, or like I said, don't do it at all, or you could even use pinking shears, okay, and cut. While this is drying, though, I went ahead and I cut out my 2 pieces of 7-inch hemp. Alrighty, and now about an inch from the edge, an inch from the end, I guess is really better, an inch from the end of the hemp piece. Let me put that there. Can you see that? I'm going to do an overhand knot. So, overhand knot, and I'm going to tighten it, but I'm going to wait. It doesn't have to be perfect. All right, but there we go. That is about an inch from the end. Actually, I'm going to move it down a little bit. All right, there we go. That's a little bit better. Put it in the camera there, Tammy. All right, so I've got an overhand knot. I'm going to do that on the other end of this piece, and then I'm going to do it on both ends of this piece, and I will be right back. All right, finally this dried. And I folded it over at the top. Okay, here's the top of it. I folded it over 1/4 of an inch and pressed it with my iron. I did that for both pieces. And I'm going to get on my sewing machine and I'm going to stitch from the top to the bottom on this piece, the top to the bottom on this piece, and I will be right back. All right, I have stitched the top, and I went ahead and left this on there. If you have trouble with your sewing machine sucking up small pieces of fabric into your bobbin area, I recommend using a little bit of tissue paper, and I put the tissue paper underneath here, and stitched a little bit, did a back stitch, and then all the way down, and then what you do at the end is it just rips right off, and it kind of helps stabilize your fabric. All right, so I'm going to trim off the little pieces there. I did it on this one already, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually attach the handles next. Okay, obviously if you haven't, obviously you probably know the next thing after that is you're going to put it together and you're going to stitch, 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 and you could do that and then put on the handles, but it's kind of fiddly once it's all one piece like this. Okay, I'm speaking from experience here, so I recommend stitching the handles on before you sew the 2 pieces up. And basically you want to measure about when you put the handles here, I'm going to measure 3/4 of an inch from the edge. Okay, so that my first handle is going to be here, and I'm going to, the knot's right here on the spot that you just stitched down, and I'm just going to put a little pin right there, all right, to help me keep it in that spot. And I'm just going to use a needle and thread and stitch it on this side, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to measure 3/4 of an inch from the edge and put this right there and stitch it down, and I'm going to do that on both of them, and I'll be right back. All right, so I folded the top over 1/4 of an inch, stitched around, got my 7-inch pieces of hemp, tied knots here, 3/4 of an inch inside. I placed the first knot and then the second knot and hand stitched them, so you can see they're both on there now. And now simply going to put them face to face. All right, and I'm going to add a few pins here. Guess that if I put that over there, that might be easier. Alrighty. And now using my machine, and again, you could do this by hand, I'm going to stitch 1/8 of an inch inside from here to here, here to here, and then turn it here to here. So it's a 1/8 inch seam allowance. All right, so I did a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance stitch from here to here, turned it from here to here, turned it, and from here to here, trimmed off my threads. And really, technically at this point, you have a tote bag. You could finish here if you are good with this, and turn it inside out and fray the edges a little bit on the hemp like I did on this one. However, what I did with this one is I created a boxed bottom to it, so you can see how there's a little square at the bottom, and that's very easy to do, and that's the next step. To create a boxed bottom on the bottom of your tote bag, you're going to take the corners, take your fingers and flatten out the seams, pull down, and I already took a sewing marker and I measured 1/4 inch from the edge and just marked it across. And I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to stitch across back and forth, at least a couple of times. Then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. You're going to flatten out the seams with your fingers. Obviously you could also, use a sewing or use an iron to flatten out these edges, but for our purposes, usually finger pressing works fine. Just take a little bit of time. This is the fiddly part, okay? So just fiddle with it a little bit till you get that triangle bottom. There you go, a triangle. Measure your 1/4 inch from the edge, from the point right there, 1/4 inch. I've got my finger there, and I can just draw my little line. And then I go to my sewing machine. I can just hold it and stitch, like I said, back and forth a couple of times. All right, I'll do that and be right back. Right, I stitched back and forth a few times. So you can already start seeing how it's flattening out the bottom of your tote bag. If you want, you can just turn it inside out at this point, or you can also just trim off a little bit on the edge so you don't have bulk down there. All right, let's turn it inside out, see what it looks like. Use my finger and pop. See how nice that bottom is now? All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fray the edges here. That's why I left that 1 inch piece of hemp there at the bottom. Is I like this sort of, again, fraying is kind of a boho style, so we're going to fray a little bit. And I just take a big needle, and you can see how it's twisted. You're untwisting the hemp. So I just stick my needle in there and kind of pull, pull, pull. Little bit, little bit, little bit. What's nice about the hemp too, you could add beads to this if you wanted to. That would be really cool looking actually. See how that fray looks now? Right, so I'm going to fray all the pieces. I'll be right back. Alrighty, it's done. How cool is that? Very simple. It's actually a functioning little accessory for your doll. And it's a wonderful, quick project and very scrap friendly. You can make all kinds of little tote bags. These might even be nice little, gifts for doll folks in your life that maybe don't sew, or even if they sew, honestly, look how cute that is. Who wouldn't want a tote bag? A little boho tote bag for their 1/6 scale doll. Seriously. Alright guys, let me know down below in the comments how you did on this. I'd love to see some photos. Let's see what your dolls look like with their super cute boho beach totes. Thanks for watching.